morning. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Ron, and thank you, everyone, for having me here. All right. The question is, are you embracing AI in your workplace? And how fast are you doing it? All right. So it was easy for me to embrace AI because I was already doing machine learning. I was teaching machine learning. I have 10 years experience working on research and doing machine learning and analytics. And then I came to Lane in 2020, and I was teaching business analytics, which is a lot of it is machine learning. And I was really very happy when the Gen AI tools came in, and because a lot of the things that I was doing became a lot easier. It was also helping my students, helping me, and I was the first one to embrace AI, first few months to embrace AI, and quickly adopt AI in my teaching and my curriculum, right? So I'm also developing 2 new courses, AI courses, specifically talk about AI. One for the undergraduates called AI in Business, that's starting in the fall. And then I'm also teaching an executive MBA class, which is applied AI in finance. Right, so those are some screenshots of my applied machine learning class where my students actually develop analytics, business analytics applications using AI. And they use AI to try to solve business problems. That was from a recent event called Lane. Had an event for my students to demonstrate their tools that they're building using AI. It's called AI in Action or something. And then I also work with local companies to help solve their business problems. It's called the Business Analytics Projects class. My students work in teams with local companies, go and do something like an internship for a semester long. And is there anybody from any of these companies here? Riley, Crescent Bank, Phelps, Premium Parking. No. All right. That's good. Able to meet other people here. Okay. So this is in one of my classes. I use Google Colab. Have any of you heard about Google Colab? Okay. It's a tool. It's Google's tool, right? Google Colab. Where this is my executive MBA class, where people like you, there are some CFOs, CEOs, founders who come to the class. I used to use a tool called RapidMiner before because I didn't want any of you to come and do programming in my class because you don't like programming, right? It's a developer's job, a software engineer's job. But my executive MBA class right now, the students, they are not programmers, they're not trained programmers, but they can use Google Colab because the AI is writing code for them. They just need to think what they need to do and write the prompt, and the AI can write the program for them and give the output, analyze the data. So that was a little bit background about what I do in Tulane. I use AI and machine learning to solve business problems, right? So now the question is, how many large language models are there? Have you all seen these large language models, Gen AI tools? When I say large language models, it's Gen AI tools. You definitely know about OpenAI, right? The ChatGPT. How many of you use ChatGPT? All of you, right? Okay. How many of you use Gemini? You don't have to use it. Use ChatGPT. It's okay, right? Okay. There's Claude, if you know. There's Claude. There's also Facebook's Gen AI model, right? Meta's Gen AI model is called Llama, which is open source. And then there are more large language models, right? How many do you think are in total? Like how many are there? What, hundreds? Thousands? No, there are only a few more actually, because large language models are very expensive to build. Okay, very, very expensive to build. That's why these are multi-billion-dollar companies, or they're just, some of them just became multi-billion-dollar companies because there's a venture capitalist fund. They're funding these companies to build large language models. It's very expensive to build. It's very expensive to run, right? So someone says that to run a Google search, right, and then versus to run your ChatGPT query, right, it takes 100 times more power to run a ChatGPT prompt versus a Google search, right? So that's why, and it also takes huge amount of NVIDIA chips to build a large language models. So there won't be hundreds of large language models the way it's going right now, but there'll be thousands of companies. They call themselves AI companies or something because they are all using these large language models to build their software products. Some of them will customize too much to suit one specific business process or few business processes, but then there'll be a lot of companies, AI companies, but then there won't be a large number of large language models because it's expensive to build. Okay, so then we're talking about AI-powered search. So what is an AI-powered search? So when you go on Google right now, it's going to give you an AI overview, especially if you ask a question on Google. Right? We used Google before to get links to what we're looking for. Right? So to ask a question, used to get links. Now it's going to give you an AI overview because they're also trying to sustain this competition. Now there are other Bing can do the same thing. But when you ask a question in ChatGPT in their traditional form, you don't get links, you get answers, right? And some of the things that we do, we need answers, but we also need the citations, right? For example, if you're going to ask someone is preparing per diem, like travel reports, or some of your employees go on a conference travel, like what you do right now. You want to submit your travel expenses. You want to know per diem and what's the standard for per diem, and they submit something, or you have to fill up something. You need to know what's the actual value in Louisiana or New Orleans per diem, right? So if you ask ChatGPT, it might just give you some numbers, but you want to know exactly what the standard is, right? So Perplexity is a tool. It's not a large language model. Perplexity doesn't have its own large language model like ChatGPT or something. It uses other large language models, but it gives you citations. A lot of the people who want to actually get citations along with answers because you want to refer to the source and make sure your answer is right before you put on your Excel sheet or your travel report or anywhere. You want to be using tools which gives you citations, right? So that's why Perplexity came into existence and it became popular because it gives you answers and their focus is giving you citations. It's called the AI-powered search, right? Now Google can do that, Bing can do that, and if you enable browsing in ChatGPT, ChatGPT can do that. So, so if you go into browser-enabled search in ChatGPT, gives you answers, and then all the way down you have the sources and its verified sources. All right. Now, my goal was here because Kyle actually talked about the higher level overview of AI and all of that, very interesting facts. I want to give you something that you can do in your workplace. Right? How can you use AI, start using AI in your workplace? And some of you may be already using it. I don't know how good my examples are, but let me talk a bit about my example. So closing the loop, right? Seems like an accounting problem. I don't know how many of you deal with this reconciliation issues in invoices, payments, and invoices and sales. I know we have really fancy tools that is 1%. There are more people dealing with these things. Okay. I know I spoke to some people in the industry, like big companies, and they use sophisticated tools. They are big ERP systems, but you still have these reconciliation problems, right? You have problems that the sales doesn't match the invoices, the invoice doesn't match the payments received. They call in your, I'm not from a finance background, I'm more like a machine learning and AI background. So they call it accounts receivables, right? So I'm trying to use that tool, use that example, maybe to show you maybe what you can do, start doing if you haven't actually used ChatGPT, and then see what the ChatGPT can do you to the problem that you're trying to do, right? So assuming that these invoices, don't look at the screen there, it doesn't show you everything, but imagine that the invoices, sales, and the payments received are coming from 3 different data sources, or actually they are in 3 different Excel files, right? Now you have 3 sheets to deal with, and then and you want your goal is to reconcile, right? And then see if the sales actually matching the invoice, and invoice is actually matching the payments received, and it's called 3-way matching, right? Okay. All right. And my goal is to actually show you using a very basic tool that you all have access to. That's the ChatGPT, right? And going forward, I'm going to also explain what is custom GPT and what's an agent. So, assuming that you have your invoices in a spreadsheet, or invoice spreadsheet, and then you have sales, like sales data. Sales would contain your customer orders when they place the orders, right? And then it would have the order quantity, what's the amount charged, right? And it would also have your cost or profit or anything else, okay? And then when the order was placed. And then your invoices would be when the item gets shipped to the destination. Normally, some people generate invoices. I don't know, maybe the process is different for different companies, right? Maybe in the services industry it's different. In the products industry, if you ship the product, once the product reaches the destination, then the invoices get generated and it gets recorded. And sometimes the sales says there are, the customer ordered 40 items and the invoice says 20 items because you only had 20 items to ship. Right? So there's a mismatch in invoices and sales. Right. So I took 2 sample spreadsheets with invoices and sales, and I asked ChatGPT, uploaded those 2 sheets to ChatGPT. It was 1 year worth of data, 1 year worth of sales and invoices, 12 months. And the ChatGPT came and said there are some items or some orders that are in the sales spreadsheet that's not in the invoices spreadsheet. Okay, it's able to identify them. And then the second problem it said was orders mismatched the invoices. That means if you look at, I don't know if it's big enough, there are 2 orders where you have the quantities sold, which is in the sales, does not match the invoiced quantity. And then there's the quantities, I think the price doesn't match the invoices. The sales price doesn't match the invoices. And this is exactly the problem you're dealing with. But you can think of this like 2 sheets uploading to ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT what the problem is in the mismatch here, right? And it's going to come back to you and give you exactly what you're looking for. And it's 1 year worth of data. It's not like too simple to look at. It's not like 10 rows to look at simply and then come back with those answers, right? Now, when it's listing here, I found that it's talking about, was I not speaking on mic? Okay. So when I asked those questions, when it was listing the answers, it wasn't actually listing the answers. If you look at the table there, it wasn't listing the answer. It was only listing the answer for the second one, the mismatch in order quantities and prices. It was not listing the answer for what was in the sales but not in the invoice. The order that was in sales but it is not in the invoice. So then I asked ChatGPT, I realized that, and I asked ChatGPT, can you give me that order which was in sales and it's not there in invoices? And it came and said, this is the order number that it can. So right, how would you do that otherwise in two Excel files? To do a VLOOKUP or something, right? Okay. So you just have to write a prompt like this, and then it's going to come back to you with those answers, right? And then now the three-way matching, right? So now we have to look at the payments received and then see if everything in the payments received match the invoices and the sales. Then I upload the payments received data to ChatGPT and asked if payments received match the invoices and sales. And then it came back with, you don't see all the rows here, but it came back with a few rows, about 30 or I think, and it gave me all the data. It actually does the join, right? You know what's joining? If you have 3 different Excel sheets and joining those things, it actually, when it comes back to you with the answers, it joins those and then comes back to you with the entire joined data. So it gives me order number, it gives me sales quantities, invoices, and then it also gives me the payments received data. And the last, I am only showing you the columns that I want to talk about. As the last column, it says unpaid. So it's saying it's not exactly not matching the amount. So it's coming back to you with unpaid invoices. So those are the customers who haven't paid their invoices. That's actually not a three-way matching problem here. Maybe you have to redefine the prompt and then ask ChatGPT, don't give me unpaid, but give me only mismatches. It might do for you. So you have to, what that means is you have to be very careful with your prompt. You have to verify it's still human in the loop. If you do this, you still have to verify what's giving you. You still have to be very careful about what prompts you're asking. If it's not giving you exactly what you're asking for, you may have to redefine your prompt and then tell what exactly you want from this ChatGPT, right? So, but this is actually helping me right now here because I also want to know for those unpaid invoices, right? What's the aging, right? Is it unpaid because the invoice was sent in the last 30 days? Or it's overdue, and how past overdue? Because I know some of you also deal with collections, right? So you want to be tracking those people who haven't paid you and find out why they haven't paid you. So unpaid invoices are important, and you will, I know some of you have systems that can flag if some of the invoices haven't been paid for past 30 days, and you want to be able to track them, and you have a process to do that. But in spite of all that, reconciliation problem still exists, right? In spite of having a business process, and in spite of having a system that can flag and send those automatic reports, you still have those issues, and you need someone to look at those problems. And you have a dashboard. Maybe some of you use Power BI or Tableau that can tell you how many customers, what's the aging, how many haven't paid, all those things, right? Then customers have different timeline for payments, right? By default, they all get 30 days maybe, or 60 days, or 90 days, but they may get different days. How do you know they get different days? It's in your sales contract, right? It's in a sales contract. So you need the sales contract document to the ChatGPT. Tell, this is the sales contract. Can you tell me for this customer how many unpaid invoices are there? And then can you tell me what's the aging, right? So I uploaded a sales contract. I don't have examples for all customers here. I only uploaded one sales contract for one of the customers. And I asked ChatGPT, here is the sales contract. I know you told me there are so many unpaid invoices. Now take a look at the sales contract and tell me how many are overdue and what's the aging, right, for those unpaid invoices. So it comes back and tells me, right, there is the aging, and it creates a bucket, 0 to 30 days, right? It's tells me what's the outstanding balance, tells me for 31 to 60 days what's the outstanding balance, and groups them by 30 days buckets, right? And it tells me what those outstanding balance for in each bucket. So it looks like there is something that's 90 plus days, and there's a substantial amount that hasn't been paid. Right? So then I asked ChatGPT, I'm more like a visualization person, can you create a graph? Can you create a chart and tell me the same information in a chart? Right? And how many of you use Power BI or Tableau here? You like saying those things in the chart and then finding out what the problem is, right? So you're all used to looking there. So, and maybe there is somebody who's working on these dashboards for you, who's creating, or maybe some of you are, have time to do that yourself, but some of you have teams that works on dashboards and all those processes and you'll go back asking, okay, it's not showing me this problem, can you update your report and or maybe create a different chart or dashboard that can show all the information. Now you can just ask ChatGPT and I'll give me this in a visualization. I want to look at this visualization, right? Then ask ChatGPT, can you create a pie chart for me and show only the overdue payments? Okay, don't tell me if it's the invoice is sent in the last 30 days. I think it's showing me everything. I think it's overdue, right? 0 to 30 days overdue, right? Give me what's the outstanding balance and what's the number of days, right? Since the invoices have been sent. So it creates a bucket, like same bucket with pie chart, it's outstanding balance, and it's also showing the buckets as well, right? Different colors. Then I asked, because I don't have, the working example that I'm giving, I don't have a sales contract for all customers, but you can do that, right? You have sales contract for all customers. I said, okay, I know by default our company gives 30 days time to pay for our products after the invoice has been sent, so they have 30 days. So assuming that 30 days is like a time limit for overdue payments, can you generate now the chart for all customers, right? All payments that we have. So I created now for all customers, like all of the data for 1 year, and what's the outstanding balance, how many, what's the aging, and what's the overdue amount, right? And it also gives me, on an average, for each customer, how many days overdue for the invoices, average overdue invoices, right? So this should be, you should use this to quickly track your customers and what's happening with them, right? Without using Power BI or anything like that. Quickly upload these invoices, sales and payments and contracts to ChatGPT. Can give you all this information. You just have to ask a question, right? And ask it. And it's not like super fancy. You don't need to know anything like, super fancy prompt engineering to ask these questions. Simple language. I'm not even from a finance background. I'm asking these questions and I'm able to pull the answers, right? So as simple as that. Now, I was trying to test ChatGPT can do very simple other things that you might be interested in knowing what you will see normally on your Power BI dashboards, or Tableau dashboards that you use, like simply coming up with what's the total sales for each customers for last 1 year, right? I have the last 1 year data. You can have more data and then ask more questions. What's the total profit for each customer. Show me both the revenue and the subtotal sales and the profit both for each customer. It's going to give you that, right? So the next question is the rebates. How many of you work with rebates? No? 1, 2. I see a few hands. 2, 3. Right. So this is that in your accounts payable, or is it something that you owe your businesses, right? To send them money. I don't know. It's in account payables or whatever. But it's something that you owe your clients, right? You have to give them money back if they hit certain targets. Then they get rebates, right? And it's usually mentioned in sales contract document, right? What's the rebate, right? What's the rebate that have you agreed with your customer? And different customers can get different rebates depending on their sales contract. And sometimes because there's so many people involved in this, and it's also attorneys, lawyers who write these documents, and there are specific languages that are being used. It's not like a simple spreadsheet where you're gonna have a base revenue sales, and then this is the percentage. They're gonna write this in words and sentences and some complicated terms, legal terms, right? So can you ask now ChatGPT, can you tell me what's the rebate for this customer? Right? How much rebate did they earn? And then because the ChatGPT has the sales contract document, it comes back with this figure, which is correct. I verified it. Right? It tells you exactly. It reads the sales document, contract document, looks at the rebates, and it's only like if you look at my prompt there, it's just one line, right? Based on contract document, give me summary of total sales, rebate earned, and what is the gap to next year? Do you all compute the gap to next year for your clients? Gap to next year, how much more they have to, spend in terms of earning the next level of rebate, right? And it computes both of them. Just look at my prompt, it's just one line prompt. It computes everything, computes how much rebate they earned. It computes how much more they have to earn the next level of rebate, and it gives you back. I know my wife works in a healthcare company, a big healthcare company, and they have to compute all of this using an Alteryx workflow, and they have to take the sales databases coming from the sales document, rebates, and then they have to actually read the rebates, the sales contract. They have to create a separate Excel file that's created out of the sales document, reading the sales contract document, because the Yatish can read the data and then create this output, which is how much rebate they earn and what is the gap to next year, right? But you're just asking ChatGPT, take this contract document and take this invoices, take this sales, and tell me what the rebates are. All right, so now next I'm going to talk about the custom GPT. So now if you have to do all of this, right, let's say you are working on this reconciliation issues every few weeks or every few quarters, and you're going through these problems, and you have to write these prompts, you have to upload these sales contracts, this sales invoices and payments, all the spreadsheets. Now, it wasn't that hard to write these prompts, it was easy, right? But we are getting more like lazy now with LLMs, so ChatGPT. How can we do this even faster, right? How can we do this even more efficient, right? This itself is more efficient, right? Like instead of writing the VLOOKUP or doing all of that, just uploading and doing the prompt was a lot easier. But now we're getting more lazy now. We want to do something more fancy. So let's say writing a custom GPT, which is instead of writing these prompts, right, asking this question one after the other and generating these visualizations, how can we write a custom GPT, that set of instructions, right, all at once, And when I upload my sales contract, my sales document, invoices, and payments, I just have to upload them, and then it's going to give me everything that I want, including the rebates, everything, right? So you can go on, I'm only showing this in the ChatGPT platform, right? The OpenAI, but you can do this in other LLM platforms too. My goal was to show you something very simple that you can all do in your workplace. But you can think of this as any tool, right? So you can go here, and this is the ChatGPT Plus account. I have a Plus account with ChatGPT, right? That's just at $20 per month. And if you go to custom GPTs there, they have a lot of existing custom GPTs that you can readily use. If you, let's say I'm a CFO and I want to do specific things, you can select which of, some people have created this and shared this with everybody, so you can go and see which one works better for you, right? You don't have to create anything. But if you want to create something specific for your own business, like your own task that you're doing, let's say you're dealing with reconciliation issues, that is another issue that you're dealing with, you can create 10 different custom GPTs for 10 different tasks that you're doing, okay? Now how do you create this custom GPTs, right? So go and click create, and then as simple as writing all those prompts that I did, right? One after the other for sales invoices and payments and contracts. You just have to write instructions here and then tell ChatGPT how do you what do you want the users to do, right? Including yourself. Upload these documents, okay? When someone comes to ChatGPT, your custom GPT, upload these documents, and then what the ChatGPT should do in terms of processing documents and then giving you the output that you're asking, right? So it will do, so all the steps, write down all the steps here, and then the ChatGPT will, the custom GPT that you're creating will take care of it, right? So, right, sales contract, if you have multiple sales contracts, you can upload all of them here and then create this, and then it's done. So as simple as that. You could do this in 2 minutes, under 2 minutes. I mean, if you have a lot of files to upload, maybe it takes a little bit more time, but writing these instructions, like under 5 minutes, I would say. And then once you create those, you can share, let's say you created a really nice custom GPT for reconciliation issues in your company, and you can share that with your entire team once you create it, and everybody could use that. Everybody gets a link, and you could share that link with everybody, and everybody can use that custom GPT that you created. And you can create many custom GPTs for different types of tasks. So this is an example of the custom GPT that I created for the same reconciliation issues that I talked about. And I just uploaded those documents, right? I didn't have to write any prompts. It just did everything, all of the analysis, and showed me what the problem was, right? And so I'm talking about there, so there's no audio, that's why I'm talking. It showed me where the unpaid invoices are, and it computes the pie chart with aging and unpaid invoices, right? Amounts, and you can also see how many unpaid invoices for different customers and average aging for different customers. And then it specifically did for no retailers. That's the one customer that I have the sales contract for. If you have sales contract for all customers, it will do for all customers. And then it identified the problem, right? That's what you can do in your workplace. Just create a custom GPT, right? All right, so that was easy. Now let's go and talk about the agents now, right? What do agents can do? Agents is what you will see now, from now, what I think Kyle actually talked about, one of those things that what Halite is doing, right? Which using the large language models, right? So I mean, as you keep on using these tools, feel like, I understand what the problem is, telling me where the problem is, I want to fix this problem, right? So how do you fix this problem? How can ChatGPT fix this problem in the source? Can it send the payment? If there's a payment issue, can it send a payment? Right? Can it send an email? Right now, the ChatGPT is like a chat interface, right? Most of these tools that give you chat interface, you can just do a chat with it, and it can tell you problems. It can do a lot of things. Maybe it will change, right? As when we're speaking, a lot of things are changing in AI. It's changing tomorrow, it's changing today. It's going to be different a month from now. What these AI agents can do is, and it's there now. So many companies are developing agents for different types of tasks. It can send emails, right? It can modify source databases. It can publish reports for you. It can also make payments. It can do so many other things because you don't want to just identify the problems, you want to fix the problems, you want to notify people that the problems exist, right? Then how can you develop these agents in your workplace, right? So you can use the agents that are getting developed. So the big companies who are developing large language models, like Microsoft or Amazon or Google, OpenAI, right? By the way, I didn't talk about Microsoft Copilot. I just talked about ChatGPT in all of the LLMs. Why? Because Microsoft Copilot is ChatGPT. It's the same model. Microsoft hasn't developed its own model. You all use Microsoft Copilot, I know many of you, but it's the same as ChatGPT. It's the OpenAI model. Okay. That's why I didn't have the top element. I didn't show Microsoft there. By the way, so how do you create agents in your workplace? Like you have a specific problem, like the reconciliation issues or something. You want to now notify people. You want to create a click button for email or click button for sending the payment. You want to develop this kind of software with the help of LLMs, then you need to go and look at APIs. APIs, all these large language models have APIs. All big software companies have APIs. Well, the software companies give you a really nice user interface for you to work with. Sometimes it's drag and drop, sometimes it's just entering text or numbers. Most software companies also have an API that the programmers can use to interact with different, what the APIs will come into help is APIs can interact with different softwares. So large language models have APIs. And if you really want to know if you want to stay away from the AI noise, right? A lot of the noise is in AI that we have this company, it can do all these things for you. We have, and then, I know there'll be thousands of companies who will come and do marketing. Have the companies started marketing? Are you getting marketing emails about AI products? Yes? So many companies will do marketing, and then they have their own AI product to solve certain issues. And then you will see them very often now. So if you really want to know what's happening in the AI space and want to use large language models to solve your problem, look at the API document and then say what this OpenAI large language models can do now, right? So if you go into the API documentation, it can tell, okay, you can create agents. How can you create agents? It's going to talk about how you can create agents, right? This is more like a technical documentation. I know it's sometimes like overwhelming to read if you are not from a technical background, but if you have access to somebody who knows technical stuff in your company, right? IT managers or directors or software developer or somebody, they can easily read these documents and tell you what they can do with large language models. This is staying away from noise and actually getting into looking at what the large language models can actually do. Right? And how can you work with these large language models and connect the large language models to the different ERP, different softwares that you use, like ERP or whatever other kinds of emails, Outlooks, different kinds of software that you use, and connect them together to make your business process work together, right? But solve your problem, make your business process more efficient, right? So that's something about how can you adopt AI in your workplace. This is very basic, sorry.
Can you speak a little bit, as you talk about APIs and tying into what are you doing, or what are some of the resources out there to anonymize that data before you just go connect an API to a database that contains PII and other information?
Yes, so...
Repeat that for us, just...
Sure, sorry, what's your name?
Paul.
Paul's asking about how do you anonymize when you're using these APIs where you're actually giving private information, a lot of sharing private information about your customers or your sales or anything like that, or your own company information, and sending these things to the API. That means it's actually going somewhere, and it's very unsafe to do that. I was thinking that the question was going to come up much earlier when I said upload your sales document to ChatGPT, and nobody asked that question. I know Kyle said we'll take the questions in the end, so I thought maybe you're waiting on that one. So yes, so what happened, so let me go back to 15 years ago now, right? When AWS came and said we have a cloud platform now, you all can, instead of creating your own server room, you dump all of your data in our cloud. It's so much easier to handle your data. We have so many services. And then Azure came, and then Google Cloud came, and then so many cloud platforms now. And then nobody wanted to go to cloud when AWS came and said, okay, you can use our cloud instead of using your server room. Nobody wanted to do that. But then everything changed. Now we are 15 years after, and everybody is using AWS. Your data is actually sitting in Amazon's cloud, right? Isn't that unsafe? Not sure you have a server room? Okay. You are the few ones left, I know. So I've just talked about this with another person yesterday, I think the day before, and they were like, okay, we are finally going to AWS, or another cloud or something. I know there are some healthcare companies with patients. You have patients' data, then you have HIPAA and other standards that you have to use. But what's happening is these companies are spending billions of dollars. They are coming up with, I know in Tulane we are getting into some kind of contracts now with these companies that your data remains private and they're not going to use your data for anything like that. So they're spending billions of dollars to just maybe put together maybe trillions of dollars to build these large language models, and they want you as your customers. They're their customers. So they're going to make sure that your data remains safe and your data remains private if you get into an enterprise agreement with them. And so it's going to happen. I know what, I'm not the right person to answer exactly how that privacy is going to be maintained. Right now with chat, if you're using plain ChatGPT to try something, I would say anonymize the data on your own if you're just using the Plus account instead of the enterprise. I know the enterprise account is protected, at least what they say. So it is protected, but it's, so I know, so they want your money. So they're gonna make all the guardrails and all the protections and everything to make sure that your data is safe. I think what you should worry about is all of the regulations, like if you have a HIPAA or anything else. I'm not an expert in that, but all those things that you have to maintain. So make sure that all those policies are signed, and whoever is the responsible person in your company looks at that and make sure that they don't use your data for anything, including training their models, right? Because once the data gets into training the models, then it can go anywhere. So make sure that so even in ChatGPT Plus account that I was using, there is a place where I can go into my settings and then say that don't use my data for anything, including training the models. I don't know if that's just a button to make me happy, or is it actually doing it, right? But when it comes to like big enterprise issues, I think they're gonna take care of it. I know Tulane is actually doing something similar right now with one of the platforms companies that we are trying with. So we want to make everything meets the standards and our data is safe. Because once the tool goes to the employees, they can upload any data and then play with it, and that's like the most important question anybody should be asking, right? It's thank you for asking that. So yeah, I know things will happen. Like think about the cloud, which 15 years ago nobody wanted to use cloud because it's unsafe, but now everybody is using cloud. Your data is somewhere in the cloud. It's not with you, right? So I think yeah, almost reaching the end, right? So how we can use you? I mean, these are simple. I think Kyle actually explained a few more things, how you can use as CFOs in your workplace, how you can use AI. These are identify repetitive manual tasks that you do, or your colleagues, or your subordinates. Identify those tasks that they do, it's boring tasks. Why don't you give it to AI to do this, right? Identify those processes, repetitive tasks. So that's the simple thing that you can do. Try with different AI tools, keep trying with different AI tools. One of the things that I can tell you is I'm using ChatGPT for a while now. And when I was preparing for this talk, ChatGPT understood that I'm preparing for this talk, and my questions that I was asking for ChatGPT was related to this talk, and it was refining the answers, just focusing on this talk. So that means that if you're playing with one tool, one LLM tool, you don't need to play with all that 20 LLMs that I was talking about. Just one, right, ChatGPT, because all of them can do similar things. It can learn a lot from what you're doing, and it can refine the answers specific to your job and the task that you're doing, right? Like if you are dealing with reconciliation issues and so many other things that you do in your office, it quickly aligns all of the responses it's giving to what you're doing. It suits the answers to what you're doing, and then your prompt will be much smaller because it already knows what you're trying to do, right? Sometimes it's less than a line of a prompt because it knows what you're doing. The only thing is that you have to make sure, because it knows what you're doing, you have to make sure it's safe, right? So that's probably someone's headache in the company to make sure it's safe. Now, yeah, in finance, I have some simple use cases, but Kyle actually talked about broader use cases, what ChatGPT can do. Most importantly, it can look at hundreds of pages of sales contract document, write you summaries. I know all of you have been using ChatGPT for summarizing, writing emails, or summarizing texts, and so many other things. I know when ChatGPT came, when I wrote my email, using ChatGPT, because I really liked it, because I'm not a native English speaker, and I can use ChatGPT to quickly write a nice email. And they didn't like it because I'm using a language that it's not my own, right? Using fancy words somewhere, but it's normal now, right? You see, people using ChatGPTs, it can write. So only thing you have to do is it's verify everything that the information is correct, because sometimes it can get a few things wrong, and sometimes it can actually add a few more sentences to make it more fancy or whatever. Right? Sometimes you don't need that. Right? So identify reconciliation issues, budget variance. We can do what's in the budget, what's the actuals, right? And generate a summary document on that one. Risk compliance and monitoring, right? Sentiment analysis, I actually use sentiment analysis on financial news in one of my classes. I was teaching accounting analytics last semester, and using the Google Colab, my students were able to go get financial news from Yahoo Finance API. And the large language models can analyze the financial news, write summaries of what's happening with companies very quickly. So, and they didn't have to write a lot of programs. So the ChatGPT can, the Google Colab can do all of that. It was so easy. Right? Now, practical tools and demos. I have a few that I use here, and most of the things that I do is I don't use ChatGPT in my classroom because my students use tools while they write programs. They use the APIs that I was talking about. So they are more like developing agents rather than using the ChatGPT chat. So thank you, and Kyle and I will take some questions if you have some questions.
Paul?